Ja. Liebe Zuschauer von Lovely Books, welcome zu einer weiteren Livestreaming-Lesung. Für uns beide hier, Alyson Noël, unsere Bestseller-Autorin aus Amerika, und mich, ist das eine völlig neue Erfahrung. It's a total new experience to us, this kind of live streaming.
Oh yeah.
So we are very curious to it and as well frightened.
Terrified.
Und wir sind gespannt auf eure Fragen, die natürlich per Twitter oder Facebook gestellt werden können. Wir haben hier einmal diesen Rechner. Ich habe auch noch Fragen vorbereitet, falls da die eine oder andere nicht kommen sollte. Worum geht es? Bestseller-Autorin ist sie mit der Evermore-Serie geworden. Über 2 Millionen Exemplare sind in Amerika verkauft worden. Über 500.000 auch hier in Deutschland. Also wirklich eine bahnbrechende, paranormale, fantastische Serie. I just told them that your Immortal series was a very big success. Ja. Und nun haben wir sie also hier in Deutschland exklusiv bei Lovely Books, denn sie präsentiert uns Soul-Seeker. Im Deutschen mit einem Singular, im Englischen Soul-Seekers im Plural. Was sich der Verlag dabei gedacht hat, werden wir heute hier nicht klären. Diese Fragen bitte an den Verlag stellen. In jedem Fall ist es eine spannende Geschichte über eine junge Frau, der Santos, 16 Jahre jung, die sich in eine plötzlich unglaubliche Situation begeben muss. Vielleicht können wir das ein bisschen mit Alyson besprechen. Der Santos is totally different to Everbloom of the Immortal series. Could you just sketch out for us a little bit of her character?
Yeah, Daire Santos is pretty much they're yin and yang to each other, Everbloom and Daire Santos. And as an author, that was a conscious choice. I wanted to create someone really different for this new series because she has a whole new journey, ahead of her. Daire Santos is very kind of cynical and jaded. She grew up on Hollywood movie sets. Her mom is a Hollywood makeup artist, so she's traveled the globe, moving from location to location, hanging out with celebrities. Sounds very glamorous. It's the kind of life I would have just loved to have had when I was 16. But the flip side of that is that it's left her very lonely. She's never had a real home, never had a friendship that lasted longer than the time it takes to wrap a movie, which is a handful of months. Never had any real relationships, never been to school. Her address is a box in a post office store. So it's left her pretty unstable, a little bit lonely, also kind of jaded. She's seen Hollywood, she's seen the world, she's not always so impressed by it all, and she has a real emotional guard up because she's spent most of her life saying goodbye to people, and it's painful. So she's very reluctant to let people into her life. Everbloom was quite the opposite. She was very protected in a really loving home and environment with a little sister who adored her, a cute dog, a boyfriend. She was a cheerleader. She was popular, kind of living the American teenage dream. And then it was all taken away in a car accident where, I killed off everyone, including the family dog. And, and so she went into this situation sort of naive and protected, and not knowing, how to handle it and not really trusting her inner voice, whereas Daire goes into her situation very cynical and jaded, and it's hard for her to trust other people. So two very different characters, two very different journeys. The one thing they both have in common is magic, mysticism, adventure, suspense, romance, and very cute boys.
Ja, wie Sie das gehört, für Lovely Books. We could also add at this point of time that, actually she has to do a quest, not only fighting against the evil, against demons. That comes later in the volume, in the book. But first of all, she has to, quarrel with totally normal things, you would say.
Yeah, she does. I mean, she's never had a home, never been to a school. So, as her destiny as a seeker, she's going to have to undergo these extreme physical and mental initiations and ultimately fight evil and demons. That's just as terrifying for her as her first day of school at Milagro High, because she has no idea what is going on with these ringing bells and these social cliques, and, God forbid she inadvertently sits at the wrong table at lunch and is told to go away. And it's just all so confusing and scary to her. And it's really equal with the fighting demons. Both worlds are completely foreign to her, and they're both a sort of initiation in a way, that she has to go into this new world and find her way and find her place.
To get a little bit acquainted with her, I would like to ask you to read out something of the first chapter.
Well, I would love to.
Ja, das gibt es jetzt in Englisch und selbstverständlich könnt ihr jetzt schon eure Fragen stellen. Ich schaue derweil immer schon mal hier auf unsere beiden Spalten. Okay, here we go.
This
The
is
first chapter.
English, first chapter, page 1. There are moments in life when everything pauses. The earth hesitates, the atmosphere stills, and time shrinks and folds onto itself until it collapses into a big tired heap. As I push through the small wooden door of the riad where Jenica and I have camped out the past several weeks, trading the hush of the rose and honeysuckle-scented courtyard for the chaos of the serpentine maze of Medina, it happens again. But instead of mimicking the stillness like I usually do, I decide to go with it and try something fun. Easing my way along connecting salmon-colored walls, I pass a small, thin man caught in mid-stride, press my fingers against the soft white cotton of his gandora, and gently spin him around until he's facing the opposite way. Then after ducking beneath a mangy black cat that, caught mid-leap, appears to be flying, I stop at the corner where I take a moment to rearrange a display of shiny brass lanterns an old man is selling, before moving on to the very next stall where I slip a pair of bright blue babushkas onto my feet, decide that I like them, and leave my old leather sandals, along with a fistful of crumbled-up dirhams as payment. My eyes burning with the effort of keeping them open, knowing the instant I blink, the Gandora-clad man will be one step further from his destination, the cat will land on its mark, and 2 vendors will gaze at their wares in total confusion. The scene will return to one of perpetual chaos. Though, when I spot the glowing people hovering on the periphery, studying me in the careful way that they do, I'm quick to squinch my eyes shut and block them from view, hoping that this time, just like all the others, they'll fade away too, return to wherever it is that they go when they're not watching me. I used to think everyone experienced moments like that until I confided in Jenica, who shot me a skeptical look and blamed it on jet lag. Jenica blames everything on jet lag, insists that time stops for no one, that it's our job to keep up with its frantic forward march. But even back then I knew better. I've spent my entire life crossing time zones. What I experienced had nothing to do with the whacked-out body clock. Still, I was careful not to mention it again. I just waited quietly, patiently, hoping the moment would soon return, and it did. Over the past few years, they've been slowly increasing until lately, ever since we arrived in Morocco, I've been averaging 3 a week. A guy my age passes, his dark, leering eyes reminding me to arrange my blue silk scarf so that it covers my hair as I pick up the pace, eager to arrive well before Vane so I can catch the Jima Alfina at dusk. I round a corner and bang into the square where I'm blasted with a full-on sensory overload just as I hoped. Confronted by a long line of open-air grills bearing goats and pigeons and other unidentifiable meats, their skin and glazed carcasses rotating on spits, shooting savory clouds of spice-laden smoke into the air, the hypnotic lull of the snake charmer's tune emanating from cross-legged old men perched on thick-woven mats, playing their punjis as glassy-eyed cobras rise up before them, all of it unfolding to the spellbinding pulse of the guanam drums that continuously thrum in the background, the soundtrack for the nightly resurrection of a bewitching square returning to life. I take a deep breath, savoring the heady blend of exotic oils and jasmine as I cast a final glance around, knowing this is one of the last times I'll see it this way. The film will wrap soon, and Jenica I will be off to whatever movie on whatever location requires her services as an award-winning makeup artist. Who knows if we'll ever return? Picking my way toward the first food cart, the one beside the snake charmer where Vane waits, I steal a handful of much-needed seconds to crush that annoying ping of weakness that grabs at my gut every time I see him. Every time I take in his tousled, sandy blonde hair, deep blue eyes, and softly curving lips. Sucker, I think, shaking my head, adding, fool. It's not like I don't know any better. It's not like I don't know the rules. The key is to not get involved, to never allow myself to care, to just focus on having some fun, never look back when it's time to move on. Vane's pretty face, just like all the other pretty faces before him, belongs to his legions of fans. Not one of those faces has ever belonged to me, and they never ever will. Having grown up on movie sets since I was old enough for Jenica to sling into a backpack, I've played my role as the kid of a crew member countless times. Stay quiet, stay out of the way, lend a hand when asked, and never confuse movie set relationships for the real thing. The fact that I've been dealing with celebrities my entire life leaves me not so easily impressed, which is probably the number one reason why they're always so quick to like me. I mean, I'm okay to look at. Tallish, skinny-ish, long dark hair, fair skin, bright green eyes that people like to comment on. I'm pretty much your standard issue girl. Though I never fall to pieces when I meet someone famous, I never get all red-cheeked and gushy and insecure. And the thing is, they're so unused to that, they usually end up pursuing me. My first kiss was on a beach in Rio de Janeiro with a boy who just won an MTV award for Best Kiss. Clearly, none of those voters had actually kissed him. My second was on the Pont Neuf in Paris with a boy who just made the cover of Vanity Fair. And other than their being richer, more famous, and more stalked by paparazzi, our lives really aren't all that different. Most of them are transients, passing through their own lives just like I'm passing through mine, moving from place to place, friendship to friendship, relationship to relationship. It's the only life that I know. It's hard to form a lasting connection when your permanent address is an 8-inch mailbox in the UPS store. Still, as I inch my way closer, I can't help the way my breath hitches, the way my insides thrum and swirl, and when he turns, flashing me that slow, languorous smile that's about to make him world famous, his eyes meeting mine when he says, "Hey, Daire, happy sweet 16. I can't help but think of the millions of girls who would do just about anything to stand in my pointy blue babouches. I return the smile, flick a little wave of my hand, then bury it in the side pocket of my olive green army jacket I always wear, pretending not to notice the way his gaze roams over me, straying from my waist-length brown hair, peeking out from my scarf, to the tie-dyed tank top that clings under my jacket, to the skinny dark denim jeans, all the way down to the brand new slippers I wear on my feet. Nice, he places his foot beside mine, providing me with a view of his and her version of the very same shoe, laughing when he adds, "Maybe we can start a trend when we head back to the States. What do you think?" We. There is no we. I know it, he knows it, and it bugs me that he tries to pretend otherwise. The camera stopped rolling hours ago, and here he is, still playing a role, acting as though our brief on-location hookup means something more, acting like we won't really end long before our passports are stamped return. That's all it takes for those annoyingly soft girly feelings to vanish as quickly as a flame in the rain, allowing the Daire I know, the Daire I've honed myself to be, to stand in her place. Doubtful, I smirk, kicking his shoe with mine. A little harder than necessary, but then again, he deserves it for thinking I'm lame enough to fall for his act. So what do you say, food? I'm dying for one of those beef brochettes, maybe even a sausage one too. Oh, and some fries would be good. I make for the food stalls, but Vane has another idea. His hand reaches for mine, fingers entwining until they're laced nice and tight. "In a minute," he says, pulling me so close my hip bumps against his. "I thought we might do something special in honor of your birthday and all. What do you think about matching tattoos?" I gape. Surely he's joking. "Yeah, you know, Mendy. Nothing permanent. Still, I thought it could be kind of cool." He arcs his left brow in his trademark Vane Wick way, and I have to fight not to frown in return. Nothing permanent. That's my theme song, my mission statement, if you will. Still, Mendy's not quite the same as a press-on. It has its own lifespan, one that will linger long after Vane's studio-financed private jet lifts him high into the sky and right out of my life. Though I don't mention any of that, instead I just say, "You know the director will kill you if you show up on set tomorrow covered in henna." He shrugs in a way I've seen too many times on too many young actors before him. He's in full-on star power mode, thinks he's indispensable, that he's the only 17-year-old guy with a hint of talent, golden skin, wavy blonde hair, and piercing blue eyes that can light up a screen and make the girls, and most of their moms, swoon. It's a dangerous way to see yourself, especially when you make your living in Hollywood. It's the kind of thinking that leads straight to multiple rehab stints, trashy reality TV shows, desperate ghost-written memoirs, and low-budget movies that go straight to DVD. Still, when he tugs on my arm, it's not like I protest. I follow him to the old black-clad woman parked on a woven beige mat with a pile of henna bags stacked in her lap. Vane negotiates the price as I settle before her and offer my hands, watching as she snips a corner from one of the bags and squeezes a series of squiggly lines over my flesh, not even thinking to consult me on what type of design I might want, but then it's not like I had one in mind. I just lean against Vane, who's kneeling beside me, and let her do her thing. "You must let the color to set for as long as it is possible. The darker the stain, the more that he loves you," she says, her English halting, broken, but the message is clear, emphasized by the meaningful look she shoots Vane and me. "Oh, we're not," I start to say, "we're not in love," but Vane's quick to stop me. Slipping an arm around my shoulder, he presses his lips to my cheek, bestowing the old woman with the kind of smile that encourages her to smile back in a startling display of grayed and missing teeth. Her actions stunning me stupid, leave me to sit slack-faced and dumb, with heated cheeks, muddied hands, and a rising young breakout star draped over my back. Having never been in love, I admit I'm no expert. I have no idea what it feels like, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't feel like this. I'm pretty dang positive Vane's just cast himself in yet another starring role, playing the part of my dashing young love interest, if only to appease a straying Moroccan woman we'll never see again. Still, Vane's an actor, and an audience is an audience, no matter how small. Once my hands are covered in elaborate vines and scrolls, the old woman reminds me to allow the stain to take hold while she gets to work on Vane's feet. But the moment her attention turns, I use the edge of my nail to scrape away little bits, unable to keep from smiling when I see the paste fall in a loose powdery spray that blends with the dirt. It's silly, I know, but I can't risk there being even the slightest sliver of truth to her words. The movie will wrap soon. Vane and I will go our separate ways, and falling in love is an option I just can't afford.
Thank you very much. Ja. Und wie der Santos gerade sagte, eine Audience ist eine Audience. Ihr habt gehört, auch hier gibt es ein Audience im Raum. Das können wir leider nicht zuschalten, schade, aber es sind auf jeden Fall Leute hier, die ein Meet and Greet gewonnen haben. Also vielleicht ist das auch eine interessante Gelegenheit, die sich dann vielleicht bei einer anderen Veranstaltung auch für euch ergeben kann. A lot of questions have already risen up. One is quite funny. Da heißt es, ich komme mit dem Twitter-Dings noch nicht so gut klar. Das fand ich jetzt persönlich ganz spannend. Aber, by the way, das ist nothing for you. Fangen wir doch einfach mal mit dieser Frage an. Do you like the German cover of Soul-Seeker? Fragt, ich hoffe, ich spreche das jetzt korrekt aus, I believe wahrscheinlich, ja? Wo bu qui steht nochmal darunter. Good. The question of wo bu qui.
I do like it. I like it because it's really different from anything that I've seen. And, one of the fun parts about having your books translated is seeing how the publishers are going to do the cover. And sometimes they'll use the American cover, sometimes they'll use a version of the American cover, or sometimes, like in this case, they'll come up with their own original concept. And I think the cover is really cool. I love that they have made all 4 covers already, so we know what to look forward to every 6 months. And I just think it's something really unusual, and I really like the bright colors that they used as well. So yes, I like the German cover.
A lot of questions by Juliana Fabula. Wie kam sie auf die Idee von Soul-Seeker? Wie wurde sie Autorin? Was hat sie motiviert? Wie lange schreibt sie an einem Buch? Well, just one of them. So, where did you get the inspiration for Soul-Seeker? Is there a connection to the Evermore, the Immortal series?
There is, actually. The inspiration for this series came directly from the research that I did for the Immortal series. I like to do a lot of research for my books because even though I write a fantasy world, I like it to be as grounded in reality as possible, and I like to make the themes that I explore as authentic as possible. So for the Immortal series, I did a lot of reading on metaphysics, and I took a 3-day introduction to psychic development with James von Prague, who's an amazing author who's written many books on the subject. I underwent past life hypnosis with Dr. Brian Weiss, who's written some really great books on that subject as well. And during the course of my research, themes of shamanism kept coming up. And I was instantly intrigued with this primal ancient practice that dates back thousands of years. And people were practicing it on different almost every continent, thousands of years ago, way before Twitter and texting, no way to communicate. Yet they're all doing these very similar, ceremonies and having really similar outcomes. And I knew I wanted to explore that further, but it just didn't fit within the world of the Immortals, so I just sort of shelved it. And when I finished the 6th and final book in the Immortals series, Everlasting, I went to shamanism and I said, okay, let's see if this is still interesting and if I can do something with this. I read a couple books on shamanism and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to build a world based on this. So I just delved right into the research. I took a 3-day introduction to shamanism course taught by a female shaman, and I journeyed to the lower world and met my spirit animal, just like Daire does in this book, and that was really fascinating. I traveled to New Mexico and interviewed Native Americans about life on the reservation, local teens about what it's like to grow up there, and all of the things that I experienced were just great for me as a person because I found them really interesting and enriching, but they also went a really long way in coloring the world that I've created for Daire, Santos, and Dace Whitefeather.
Excuse me. Is that a little more?
Oh, a technical information. Thank you. Oh, I like that. Because I have just to mention this before. While you were reading,
yes.
somebody mit 2 Fingern. Aha, I get used to it. Okay. 2 Finger und dann hoch. Ich bin ja mehr für das analoge Buch. Jetzt habe ich mir hier schon so eine etwas digitale Moderationskarte angeschafft. Hier ist nochmal etwas, was ich lernen kann. Nee, nochmal ein bisschen weiter in der Chronologie.
Ja,
nach unten. Ja. Yeah, there it is. Well, while you were reading, somebody noticed, Rebecca Kirsch, it says, haha, wie der Moderator in Anführungsstrichen vor sich hingrinst, als sie über den perfekten 17-Jährigen, der Mädels und deren Mütter verzaubert, erzählt. She means, ha. Funny the way the presenter, in advertisement.
That's you, right?
Yeah. Is smiling and grinning when you read about the perfect 70-year-old and the girls and their mothers.
Ah, yes.
Interesting. You just mentioned New Mexico.
Yeah.
So you went there for researching as well. This is another question of somebody here. So for all your books, you try to research very deeply into it, and you go to the places where everything
definitely, yeah.
sets place.
The Immortals was easy because it took place in Laguna Beach, and I live in Laguna Beach. But I still had to research. I had to go to the Shake Shack and order a date shake, just like Ever and Damon did, so I could get that scene right. I had to drink the date shake, look out at the ocean, sit at the table they sat at. I mean, I really do go through the motions of getting into their heads and trying to get it as correct as I can. So I traveled to New Mexico. It's one of my favorite places. I think the first time I went there was maybe 15 years ago. And from the moment I got off the plane, I knew there was something different about it. The sky feels bigger there. There's these amazing mesas that just jet from the earth. It's a very mystical, magical landscape, and it's a really interesting mix of cultures, Native American, Hispanic, Caucasian, and I always knew I wanted to place the book there, but I just didn't have the right story. It had to be the right story. So when I came up with this, story for Daire and Dace that involved shamanism and Native American lore, I said, oh, finally I get my New Mexico book, and it's just been a great excuse to travel there. Really fun.
So Daire Santos is sent to New Mexico to a town called Enchantment.
Yes.
But it's not enchanted at all, actually.
It's not. It's just the opposite of enchanting. Yeah, it's very run down.
Eigentlich ist es eine sehr heruntergekommene Stadt, rundown.
But it was enchanting at one point, a long time ago in its history.
Mm-hmm. So why is she sent there? Could you just give us a little explanation for that?
Yeah, on Daire's 16th birthday, the scene I read to you opens in Morocco, and it's their 16th birthday. I stopped before she starts having these terrifying hallucinations. She knows they're not really hallucinations. She knows that what she's seeing is real and it's really happening, but because nobody else can see it, they're deemed hallucinations, and all of the doctors think she's crazy, and she's basically staring down a future in a padded cell, being drugged up because nobody really knows what to do with her. And her grandmother that she's never met contacts her because she knows this is coming, and she's the only one that can help Daire. And her mother is reluctant to send her there because she doesn't really know this woman. They haven't been in touch for 16, 17 years, but they're it's that or a padded white cell. She figures she may as well give this a try. So she sends Daire to Enchantment, New Mexico to live with her grandmother. Daire's first impressions of it are, you've got to be kidding me. I can't wait to get out of this place. It's really run down. This woman is crazy, and she does her best to reject her destiny.
She even said that she doesn't believe in these esoteric views at all. She
says,
for example, on page 92, she says, "Oh boy, I've heard of that sort of talk before, usually coming from some crazy-eyed starlet who just returned from a life-changing yoga session. Yeah. So actually, she's even getting frightened of it.
She's frightened of it. She's skeptical of it. She thinks it's a little nutty. You know, she's a non-believer. She's having the hallucination. She knows they're real, but she can't accept Paloma's explanation for these hallucinations, and she can't accept this initiation that she's going to have to undergo. And so she does her absolute best to escape it, only to learn that you can't escape destiny. It'll come for you.
And the explanation is that she belongs to an old shamanic
She comes from a long line of shamans, so each firstborn child becomes a seeker, which is, you know, sort of my made-up fictional term for a modern-day shaman. So her father, before her, Django, rejected his call. And Daire never even knew her father. He died before she was born because he rejected his call. I mean, it's almost just as dangerous to accept your call or reject it. But if you reject it, you're definitely not going to make it. If you accept it and go through these initiations and survive the initiations, then, you know, you become a full-fledged seeker.
Mm. And Der Santos doesn't accept this in the first case, and she's even getting frightened of this town. She tries to get out of it.
She's terrified of the town and the people in it. She wants nothing to do with it. And, you know, she just feels so alone. Nobody understands her. And the one person that does understand her, she doesn't like the explanation.
And I would like to read out some paragraphs of that chapter when she tries to get out of the town by bus in German. And by the way, is it interesting or even strange for you to listen to foreign languages with your text?
I think you make it sound really dramatic, so I like it. Yeah.
Okay. Also die Situation ist tatsächlich die, der Santos versucht, aus der Stadt rauszukommen. Es gibt dort eine Bushaltestelle und da denkt sie, hoffentlich kommt heute dann noch ein Bus vorbei. Jetzt, da mich nur noch ein paar Meter Asphalt von der Bushaltestelle trennen, komme ich ins Grübeln. Sie ist einfach zu offen, zu ausgesetzt, da sie nur aus einer riesigen Holzbank und einem windigen Plastikdach besteht, das aussieht, als würde es unter dem nächsten Regenguss zusammenbrechen. Und ganz zu schweigen davon, dass es wahrscheinlich der erste Ort ist, an dem Paloma nachsehen würde. Sie mag verrückt sein, aber bestimmt ist sie nicht dumm. Ja, ich muss ein Versteck finden und mir vielleicht noch etwas Besseres besorgen. Also lasse ich das Telefon in die Tasche fallen und will gerade weitergehen, als ich sehe, wie der Akku warnend zu blinken beginnt, während ich gleichzeitig direkt vor mir ein grelles Neonschild aufleuchten sehe. The Rabbit Hole. Und direkt neben den leuchtend roten Wörtern zeigt ein grüner Leuchtpfahl auf eine steile Treppe nach unten. Eine Kellerbar. Ja, das ist das ideale Versteck, bis der Bus kommt und mich wegbringt. Der letzte Fleck, wo Paloma oder Jay, das ist ein Freund von Paloma, nach mir suchen würden. Während ich das als das erste gute Omen seit Wochen auffasse, steige ich die Treppe hinab und gehe eilig durch die Tür. Drin ist es so düster, dass meine Augen einen Moment brauchen, um sich anzupassen. Ausweis. Ein muskelbepackter Türsteher mustert mich eindringlich. Oh, ich will keinen Alkohol trinken, nur schnell eine Limo und vielleicht etwas essen. Ich ringe mir ein schnelles Lächeln ab, doch an ihm ist es verschwendet. Er sieht sich als bösen Buben, als harten Hund, einen Mann, der gegen kleine Nettigkeiten immun ist. Ausweis, wiederholt er, gefolgt von ohne Ausweis, kein Zutritt. Ich nicke, lasse meine Reisetasche nach unten gleiten und wühle mich durch einen Berg Klamotten, bis ich meinen Pass gefunden habe und ihn ihm gebe. Ich blase die Wangen auf, während er ihn studiert und etwas weitgehend Unverständliches vor sich hin murmelt. Dann deutet er auf meine rechte Hand und drückt mir einen Stempel auf den Handrücken, ehe er mich mit ungeduldiger Miene ziehen lässt. Mein Blick wandert über Sitzbänke aus rotem Vinyl, dunkle Holztische, Teppichboden von undefinierbarer Farbe und einen langen Mahagoni-Bartresen voller Gäste, von denen die meisten den müden, glasigen Blick von Leuten haben, die schon viel zu lange auf ihren Barhockern herumlungern. Ich suche nach einem freien Platz, möglichst ungestört in einer dunklen Ecke, wo mich nur die Bedienung findet, und schon bald sehe ich ein älteres Paar genau die Art von Nische verlassen, die ich brauche. Also setze ich mich sofort dorthin, noch ehe ihr schmutziges Geschirr abgeräumt wird. Ich schnappe mir eine Speisekarte aus dem Ständer, wobei ich mich bemühe, die klebrigen Stellen nicht anzufassen, und studiere das Angebot an salzigen Snacks, die allesamt nur dazu dienen, einen durstig zu machen, damit man mehr trinkt. Irgendwas? Erschrocken blicke ich auf. Ich hatte sie nicht kommen hören. Möchtest du etwas bestellen? Die Bedienung grinst spöttisch und betont jedes Wort überdeutlich. Dabei klopft sie sich auf eine Art mit ihrem Stift gegen die Hüfte, die mir sagt, dass sie derart daran gewöhnt ist, miese Trinkgelder zu kriegen, dass sie keinen Sinn mehr darin sieht, sich auch nur die geringste Mühe zu geben. Ja, antworte ich, da ich weiß, dass sie, wenn ich jetzt sage, dass ich noch ein bisschen mehr Zeit brauche, nie wieder vorbeikommen wird. Ich glaube, ich nehme die Buffalo Wings, und ein Sprite, danke. Füge ich hinzu und begehe die Kardinalssünde, die Speisekarte zu ihr hinzuschieben. Sie schnaubt und stopft sie kopfschüttelnd wieder in den Ständer. »Noch was?« fragt sie, und trotz ihres missmutigen Tonfalls und des harten Mundes schätze ich, dass sie nur 5-6 Jahre älter ist als ich. Außerdem vermute ich, dass sie einmal die Schönheitskönigin der Stadt war. Ja, es gibt Spuren davon in ihren langen künstlichen Nägeln und dem gepflegten Haar. Aus irgendeinem Grund habe ich sie noch immer nicht verjagen können. Ich muss mein Handy aufladen, sage ich zu ihr. Gibt es vielleicht eine freie Steckdose, die ich benutzen kann? Sie zeigt mit dem Daumen nach hinten, wobei ihr kleiner Bizeps in einer Weise hüpft, dass ich praktisch gezwungen bin, das aufwendige Schlangentattoo zu registrieren, das sich von ihrem Handgelenk bis zur Schulter und weiter zu unsichtbaren Körperstellen windet. »Frag den Barmann«, bellt sie. Ich gehe zur Bar. Doch noch ehe ich den Barkeeper ansprechen kann, glotzt er schon auf den Stempel auf meinem Handrücken und schickt mich zu meinem Platz zurück. »Hey, entschuldigen Sie, ich will keinen Drink bestellen, sondern nur mein Handy aufladen. Können Sie mir da vielleicht weiterhelfen? Sie müssen doch irgendwo eine freie Steckdose haben.« Er hält inne, blickt mit seinen unter schweren Lidern liegenden Augen den langen Bartresen entlang und fixiert mich derart, dass sämtliche Gäste die Gläser sinken lassen und mich ebenfalls mustern. Ich mag es nicht, wenn man mich anstarrt, schon gar nicht so. Es erinnert mich zu sehr daran, wie mich die Leuchtenden ansehen, das sind die aus den Halluzinationen, und die Krähen. Erinnert mich an diesen schrecklichen Abend in Marrakesch, was wir im ersten Kapitel gehört haben, als der Djemma el-Fna zu einem Meer aus dunkel blitzenden Augen und blutigen, aufgespießten Köpfen wurde. Ich hole tief Luft und verdränge das Bild, während ich einen kurzen Blick zu meinen Sachen werfe. »Hast du ein Ladegerät?« fragt der Barkeeper. Ich nicke und kann meinen Blick nicht von ihm abwenden, nachdem ich ihn erst einmal angesehen habe. »Also«, er streckt mir die flache Hand entgegen und sieht mich an, als wäre ich das dümmste Ding, das ihm je begegnet ist. Und obwohl ich zögere, ihm das Handy zu geben, habe ich im Grunde ja keine andere Wahl. Trotzdem macht mein Magen unwillkürlich einen Satz, als er seine tätowierten Finger um das Handy schließt und wortlos davongeht. Er verschwindet in einem langen Flur, während ich zu meinem Platz zurückgehe. Ich nippe an meinem Sprite und bediene mich an meinem Korb Buffalo Wings, wobei ich immer wieder auf die Uhr sehe und am liebsten die Zeiger anschieben möchte. Da passiert es. Ich werde hinabgezogen, versinke im Lärm. Die Luft um mich herum wird zuerst diesig, dann flirrt sie, und es dauert nicht lange, bis alles zum Stillstand kommt und die Zeit mit einem kreischenden Ruck stehen bleibt. Ich presse die Augen zusammen, ringe um Selbstkontrolle, registriere, wie die Krähen überall um mich herabgeschwebt kommen, auf meinen Schultern landen, auf dem Tisch und grob an meinen Fingern picken, während mich die Leuchtenden anstupsen, mich drängen zuzuhören und ihre Warnung zu beachten. Ich greife nach meiner Tasche und wühle nach den Resten der Kräuter, die mir Paloma gegeben hat. Sie werden mich müde machen, daran führt kein Weg vorbei. Aber müde ist immer noch besser als das hier. Alles ist besser als das. Ich werfe die Kräuter in mein Sprite, rühre schnell alles mit dem Strohhalm um und stürze das Gebräu so hastig hinunter, dass es mir aus den Mundwinkeln wieder herausrinnt, mir über den Hals läuft und in klebrigen Tropfen auf meiner Brust haften bleibt. Ich habe die Augen noch immer geschlossen, als die Bedienung kommt und fragt, »Fertig?« Ich hebe den Kopf und blicke in Augen, die so dick mit Eyeliner geschminkt sind, dass ich nicht weiß, ob Jennica lachen oder sich vor Abscheu schütteln würde. »Dann beeil dich jetzt mal lieber. Du willst doch deinen Bus nicht verpassen, oder?« Ich verziehe die Augen zu schmalen Schlitzen und studiere erneut ihr Gesicht. Registriere ein paar zu dünn gezupfte Brauen, die sie erstaunt aussehen lassen. »Woher weißt du, dass ich den Bus nehmen will?« frage ich, da ich mir ziemlich sicher bin, dass ich es nicht erwähnt habe. Doch sie grinst nur und klatscht mir die Rechnung hin. Schon im Gehen wirft sie mir noch ein paar Worte über die Schulter zu. »Wenn du schlau bist, haust du ab, solange du noch kannst, damit du nicht lebenslänglich kriegst, so wie ich.« Ich starre ihrem davoneilenden Rücken nach. »Ich habe mein Handy dem Barkeeper gegeben«, rufe ich. »Weißt du, wo er es hingetan hat?« Sie deutet mit einem Kopfnicken zu dem langen Flur hinüber und verschwindet in der Küche. Da ich keine Ahnung habe, wo ich hingehen muss, folge ich einfach dem Lärm, da ich mir sage, dass er mich zumindest zu irgendjemandem führen wird, der mir helfen kann. Ich erlebe eine weitere Überraschung, als ich in einen großen Raum mit einer Bühne und einer Band komme, vor der ein großer Schwarm Teenager herumtanzt. Hey, Teenager, Leute meines Alters, wer hätte das gedacht? Sie sind sogar gekleidet wie Teenager, obwohl ich mir nicht vorstellen kann, wo sie einkaufen. Der einzige Laden, den ich hier gesehen habe, hatte nichts im Schaufenster, was auch nur im entferntesten stylisch oder cool gewesen wäre. Vielleicht hat diese Stadt doch mehr zu bieten, als ich dachte. Aber deswegen werde ich jetzt nicht hier bleiben, um es zu ergründen. In der Hoffnung, dass der Barkeeper hier netter ist als der Typ von drüben, gehe ich in die Richtung, die sie mir angedeutet hat, und ziehe jede Menge unerwünschte Aufmerksamkeit auf mich, als ich mich durch die tanzende Menge schlängele. Ich klopfe laut an eine Tür. Einmal, zweimal. Um irgendwie eine Reaktion zu erzielen, hebe ich erneut den Arm, bereit, diesmal noch fester gegen die Tür zu hämmern, als diese aufspringt und ein älterer Mann mein erhobenes Handgelenk packt. Ja, sagt er, seine Augen tanzen, seine Zähne blitzen und zumindest oberflächlich betrachtet scheint er der freundlichste Mensch zu sein, der mir bisher begegnet ist. Aber irgendetwas an ihm lässt mich zurückweichen und meinen Arm aus seinem Griff winden. Er wartet darauf, dass ich etwas sage. Ich weiß, dass ich die Sache schnell hinter mich bringen muss, und so ringe ich mir ein paar Worte ab. Ich möchte mein Telefon holen. Er mustert mich von oben nach unten, und obwohl er nett wirkt, spüre ich, wie mir eine Gänsehaut über die Arme läuft und meine Haut unangenehm kribbeln lässt. Er zieht die Tür weiter auf und winkt mich hinein. Dann ruft er einem Typen etwas zu, der vor einer Wand aus Monitoren sitzt, die alles registrieren, was sich in und vor dem Lokal abspielt. Sohn, die Kleine braucht ihr Handy. Ich sehe mich in dem Büro um, betrachte Schreibtische, Telefone, Computer, Drucker, Stühle. Meine ganz normale Einrichtung ohne irgendetwas Ominöses, aber trotzdem lässt mich etwas daran auf der Hut sein. Der junge Mann greift in Richtung Wand und reißt unsanft am Stecker. Sein glänzend schwarzes Haar schimmert auffällig unter der Leuchtröhre. Als er sich mit meinem Telefon und dem Ladegerät in der Hand umdreht, bin ich wie erstarrt. Kann nichts sagen, kann ihm nur unverwandt in die Augen starren. Kalt, grausam, eisblaue Augen mit strahlenden goldenen Flecken, die nicht reflektieren. Augen, von denen ich geträumt habe. Ist es deins? Seine Stimme klingt locker, kokett, voller übertriebenem Selbstbewusstsein. Die Stimme eines Jungen, der es gewohnt ist, dass es dem Mädchen in seiner Gegenwart die Sprache verschlägt. Eine Stimme, die mich kürzlich vor einem Schnapsladen um Feuer gebeten hat. Meine Hände zittern und das Herz schlägt mir bis zum Hals, als ich die Hand ausstrecke und nach dem Telefon greife, nur um festzustellen, dass er andere Pläne hat. Seine Finger umschlingen meine, umfassen meine Hand, während seine seltsamen blauen Augen tiefer werden und meinen Widerstand schmelzen lassen. Obwohl seine Berührung kühl und glatt und unleugbar einladend ist, lässt mich etwas daran zurückzucken, woraufhin mein Handy krachend zu Boden fällt und ich meinen Blick gerade lange genug von ihm lösen kann, um mich zu bücken und es aufzuheben. Ich hoffe, du bleibst noch lange genug, um dir die Band anzuhören. Seine Stimme schwappt über meinen Kopf hinweg. Sie sind den weiten Weg von Albuquerque hergekommen und spielen nur heute Abend. Wäre schade, sie zu verpassen, hm? Ich schlucke schwer, ziehe mir die Tasche hoch über die Schulter und ringe um Fassung, da ich mich cool geben und dann so schnell wie möglich von hier verschwinden muss. Ja, die werde ich wohl leider verpassen, sage ich möglichst locker, aber meine bebende, leicht schrille Stimme verrät mich. Ich muss den Bus erwischen, also wenn du nichts dagegen hast. Ich zapple mit den Fingern und bedeute ihm, dass er mir aus dem Weg gehen soll, doch er bleibt einfach grinsend stehen. Er legt den Kopf schief und lässt sich eine dicke Haarsträhne über die Augen fallen, ehe sein Blick an mir entlang wandert und er sich mehrmals mit der Zunge über die Schneidezähne fährt. Jetzt bist du aber gemein, sagt er, und sein Lächeln wird breiter, während er sich mit gespreizten Fingern durch die Haare fährt. Du könntest wenigstens ein Weilchen da bleiben, damit wir uns besser kennenlernen. Ich hatte ja keine Ahnung, dass Paloma eine so hübsche Enkelin versteckt hält. Du etwa? Er wendet sich zu seinem Vater um, wobei sich ihre Blicke amüsiert kreuzen, ohne dass ich ihren privaten Witz verstehe. Ich will etwas sagen, will ihn fragen, woher er über Paloma und mich Bescheid weiß, doch bevor ich soweit bin, ergreift er wieder das Wort. Glaub mir, Enchantment ist sogar noch kleiner, als es aussieht. Schwer in einem Ort etwas geheim zu halten, wo jeder jeden kennt. Ja, bis hierhin. Tattle, ja. Ich gebe zu, ich habe die spannendste Stelle dieses Kapitels weggelassen. I just marked out the most exciting part of this chapter. Das könnt ihr dann vielleicht selber nachlesen, wenn ihr wollt. Ich schaue einfach nochmal hier, währenddessen sind wahrscheinlich schon wieder einige Kommentare dazugekommen. A lot of comments are added now. So. Okay. Well, first a question by Sylvia Hertel. How many books are there right now of the series of Soul-Seeker?
One.
And how many are planned?
There will be 4. Book 2, Echo, will be in the States November 13. followed by Mystic, which I have just finished, but I'm doing a little polishing work before I give it to my publisher, and that'll be in the States in May of next year, and then the final book, Horizon, will be in the States in November next year, and Germany's not very far behind.
Yeah.
So actually the covers and the release dates are
but
yeah.
what we can show this.
Oh, and show them how it's a poster. So exciting.
Yeah.
The cover is a poster.
Da hat man sich was einfallen lassen.
It's so cool.
So the publishers had a good idea.
It's a great idea.
Also hier findet ihr tatsächlich im Einband, im Schutzumschlag alle Daten. Bis Sommer 2014 werden die 4 Bände dann also erscheinen. Und ihr könnt euch auch diese... You like that?
Yeah. I love it. I just think it's such a cool idea.
That's very
cool.
cool.
It's the first time I've seen that. So I was so excited when they showed me that. And it's really nice paper too. Really quality paper.
Das beantwortet vielleicht auch die ein oder andere Frage. Es gab hier nämlich die Frage nach dem Poster. Ich nehme an, dass ihr Lieben, dieses Poster meint. Wenn nicht, dann weiß ich es nicht. Ansonsten gibt es also, wie gesagt, im Schutzumschlag, wenn man ihn aufklappt, dieses wunderbare Poster. Das wandert jetzt zurück. So, Liza Rose says, hello, a nice reading session till now. She already put the book on her wishing list.
Thank you. So sweet.
And she also got a question. So let me see, it's a long passage. Yeah, we asked already that. You like the German cover? Yeah, we asked you that before.
Yeah, I love it.
Also,
and the poster.
Okay. How does it feel for you when the books you have written are translated into different and, of course, foreign languages and are read throughout the whole world?
Yeah, honestly, it's amazing. And I can't say it's a dream come true because when I first started writing, I didn't even know enough to even dream that. I never really thought past my first book that came out in 2005 to be on the bookstore shelf. I never thought past that moment. I never thought about being translated. I never thought about doing things like this. So when the Evermore hit and it's now been translated into 37 languages, sold in over 50 countries, and I get to travel the world and do things like this, it was just the most amazing wonderful part of writing, really, getting to travel the world and meet readers and booksellers and librarians and teachers and bloggers and the lovely books people, and just, it's like this whole community of people that love books and stories as much as I do, and it's just really wonderful to see the different covers, the different languages, meet the different readers from all over the same place, and know that we all are enjoying the same things.
You just
magic.
mentioned the community, the virtual community. You also use Twitter and Facebook.
Oh, I live on Twitter.
To communicate with your fans.
I'm on Twitter all the time, yeah.
Also auch da gibt es die Möglichkeit für euch auf Twitter dann zu schauen. And there's also a website, Alyson Noël.
Yeah, there's an Alyson Noël website. There's a Soul-Seeker series website. There's an Immortal series website. There's multiple Facebook pages and my Twitter account and my blog. I also have an Alyson Noël app that is free download. And
right now?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
You can go to my website and click on AlysonNoël.com. There's a little thing for the app. It's a free download. And I did that because I just thought it would be another fun way to reach readers. I tour a lot, and what happens is I will leave a city, and then 2 days later they'll go, oh, how come you never come to Munich? And I'm like, I was just there. So I thought, well, maybe this is one more way to get the word out and, reach readers. So you can watch the trailers, read excerpts from the book, and some fun things like that on there. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I really enjoy that part of it, like getting to have, especially Twitter, because it's so immediate. I mean, like you see right now, we're doing this event, people are talking, we're talking back. I just really love that immediacy that you can have with readers, other authors, and people that love books.
Let's come back to the character of Der Santos for a while.
Yeah.
Because it was an interesting question by Papermind. Do you see yourself in Daire sometimes and in your characters in general, or do you try and keep your character isolated from your book's characters?
That's a good question. I can't keep them entirely isolated because bits of me obviously are going to find their way in. So like with Everbloom, we had absolutely nothing in common. I was not like a pretty blonde happy cheerleader. I was the opposite. I was more like Haven probably. So we had nothing in common but our grief. And so I wrote that book trying to overcome a dark period of grief that I went through after losing several loved ones. And I poured all of that grief into Ever. So at the end of Evermore, as she began to feel better, I did too. That was like really cathartic for both of us. I sort of lived that journey through her and healed that journey through her. With Daire Santos, I actually was a kind of cynical, jaded teen. Not because I lived a glamorous life. I actually lived a very opposite life of that with a lot of financial struggle and problems at home. And that kind of left me really cynical and jaded. I'm not that way anymore. I'm like ridiculously optimistic, actually.
At last.
At last.
Thank you for that.
The sun is shining. But... and she's way more courageous and brave than I am. I would never survive that vision quest. I'd be like on my cell phone going, get me out of here. But I admire that in her. But we have sort of the same background. Like she's half Irish and half Hispanic. And my mom is primarily German, Irish, and French. And my father is Puerto Rican and Spanish. But my father left when I was fairly young, and I never had a connection to that part of my life. And I met my abuela when I was 15 for the very first time. And it was sort of a brief meeting. I only was with her for a few days, and she didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any Spanish. So there was a lot of just sort of hugging and, this sort of thing going on. But I remember her as being this just really lovely, gentle soul. She just had such a great, radiant way about her. And she was just so loving. And she made such a strong impression on me. And I always regretted that I didn't get to know her better and for longer. And so I gave that relationship to Daire with her grandmother, Paloma Santos. I wanted her to have that, what I didn't have. And I, sort of in some ways modeled Paloma on my remembrance of my abuela, just her kindness, her loving manner, her always wanting to feed you.
Sure.
So little bits of, me
kind of
find their
ideal
way
relationship you had.
Oh yeah, it would have.
For,
Yeah. Wish fulfillment.
So let's stay with a question about writing and your writing process. There's a question by Nicole Ehrmann. Schreiben Sie einfach so los und bekommen die Ideen beim Schreiben oder schreiben Sie einmal ein Konzept? Are you just sitting there and write it out, or do you need a kind of concept, a kind of system before you can start writing?
I have developed a system, and it's been over the course. I'm on my 20th novel right now. My first novel took me 15 years to write. There was no system. It was a mess. There were years when I didn't write at all, and it took a lot of revision and struggle and trying to figure out how to actually write a book before I ever got it published. It was a long, long journey, but I learned a lot along the way. My first book deal was for 2 books. I knew they weren't going to give me 15 years for the second book, so I had to start finding my way with the system. But I ended up overcompensating by writing myself into the ground, and I'm like, I was done in 2 months, but I was, near dead. So I thought, okay, for book 3, I have to find a better way. At this point, I use a little bit of Story by Robert McKee, a book I highly, highly, highly recommend to anyone who's interested in writing, commercial fiction especially, and Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. You can go to blakesnyder.com and get a ton of really great information on his website, but I highly recommend that people buy that book. And it's written in a really fun, light, easy to understand way, but just because it's light, it doesn't mean it's not deep. The content is really strong and really there. And there's screenwriting methods, and I like screenwriting method because it keeps the story really flowing, it keeps it really tight, it keeps the scenes moving forward, and that's the sort of book I like to read, so that's the sort of book I try to write. Blake has this thing called the beat sheet, and it's like 15 story beats. And I will do my own beat sheet for each book, and it's just like a 1 sentence thing, like this happens here, this happens here, this happens here. That's really all the structuring that I do, but it's enough to keep me on track because there's always this point around page 200 where you are lost in the wilderness of your own words. And you're like, I don't know where I am. What is this? Who are these people? Why am I here? I can go back to the beat sheet and say, oh yes, we're at this point. This is why we're here. This is what's next. And it really helps me stay on track. the ending of a book always stays as I originally intended, but the journey along the way can shift. And I like that part. It's the discovery of writing that I really like. You think that you control your characters and you know your characters and you tell them what to do, but I find that they sort of reveal themselves to me. You know, the more I get to know them, I'm like, oh, she wouldn't actually do that. She would do this instead. So it's that sort of discovery that's really fun, and I like to allow room for that.
And we could also mention that you have some kind of rituals while writing.
I do, yeah.
Could you just give us a little impression of that? What are you doing there?
I need to sort of, I start my day on the internet, emails, Facebook, Twitter, blogging, and all this. So to sort of come out of that environment and get my head centered on my story and sort of shut out all that noise, I brew a cup of green tea. I light a scented candle. If the candle is burnt out, I will stop everything and go to the store and get a new one. The candle's really important, kind of sets the mood.
So here we got
yes, we have
three
candles
of them,
here.
so
it's just like home.
Right.
And I put on a crystal necklace that a reader gave me, which is really sentimental to me, and I just really like the feeling that it gives me. And I put on my playlist. I make a playlist for every book. You can see the playlist if you want on AlysonNoël.com. Just go to the different books and they'll be linked to the playlist. And the playlist sort of gets me into the mood of the book, the atmosphere I'm trying to create. Sometimes it's stuff like there's songs on there that Jenica would listen to. There's songs on there that Daire would listen to. There's songs on there that neither one of them would listen to, but I need that song because it sort of gets me in the mood of it. The opening scene that I read to you takes place in Morocco, and in my head, that scene, Painted Black by the Rolling Stones, is in the background. So it's like a soundtrack for the book. I just love that opening sort of sitar music. That's how I see that scene opening for me. And the song Into the Night by Santana, to me that's like Daire Santos' theme song. If I'm having problem getting into her voice or her head, I will play that song and I'm like, yep, that's Daire. I'm in it. So, I put on my headphones, I put on my playlist, I have my candle, my tea, my necklace, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Today we're here in Munich. There's a question by Regina Conrad. Alyson, do you also come to Berlin? Somewhere.
I have been to Berlin. I hate to say this, but it's like 20 years ago. And I loved it. Oh my God, I loved it.
Do you still remember?
Oh yes, yeah. I had a great time there. Okay. Really good time. I was a backpacker, with a friend, and it was really, really wonderful. But this trip, no Berlin. This is my last stop in Germany. I've been here for a week. It's been really, really great.
So we're glad to have you here at Lovely Books.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a nice way to end it.
But it's not ended yet. Ja,
no,
wir machen natürlich hier noch weiter. You just give us the idea that traveling is quite important for you. It's one of your favorites. And by the way, you also worked as a flight attendant for about a decade.
Yes.
Yeah. This is also kind of parallel to Daire Santos, isn't it, with her jet set lifestyle?
Yeah, definitely. Growing up, there's a lot of financial struggle, so there was no traveling, there was no family vacations or anything like that. So I traveled through books. I went all over the world by the books that I read, and I was always working, and I had saved up my money, and I was supposed to buy a car, but instead of doing that, I bought a plane ticket, and I went to London by myself the very first time, and just sort of was like so wowed by seeing something so different from my California suburban existence. And then after that I went back to Europe with a girlfriend and backpacked around, and then I went back again, and then I ended up living in Mykonos, Greece for 7 years. And following that I moved to New York City and I became a flight attendant, and I worked for Delta Airlines for just over a decade, and I did a lot of international flights. I flew to Germany a few times, I think Munich and Frankfurt, I did those trips, and domestic flying as well. And now I get to do a lot of travel for my books, and so it's just terrific. But I wanted Daire to have this sort of really worldly, well-traveled life, because I wanted to take it away and plunk her down in a small town and see how she does. I like taking a character who is completely and totally unprepared for the life I'm about to throw at them.
As you did with Everbloom.
As I did with Everbloom in the Immortals series. I just think it makes for a far more interesting journey if they think, let me out of here, there's no way I can do this, they don't think they're capable of it, and then they have to really dig down deep and discover just what their strengths really are.
So there's also a kind of parallel to your own, motto, we can say, because you say,
I have a
as
motto.
being an author, if an experience didn't kill me, I will find a way to write about it. That's your motto.
Yeah, that's my motto. I steal from my own life all the time. So, for my very first book, Faking 19, about a girl who's just really struggling in high school, that was me. I have a book about a flight attendant. That's my one book for adults. I did 10 years of research on that novel. They all have pieces of me. Things that I'm going through, things that I experience, things that I'm trying to sort of answer for myself. I sort of explore, those things that I'm interested in, things that I'm thinking about through my stories.
So you don't just write because of the writing?
No, it has to mean something to me. It's like The Immortals was my first foray into paranormal. I loved paranormal books. I read tons of it growing up. Stephen King was like a permanent fixture on my bookshelf. But I didn't want to write a ghost story or a paranormal story just for the sake of writing one. I wanted to have something that I personally wanted to say and explore. And so for Immortals, to me, that story was about the soul's journey and Ever's journey and what is true immortality. Is it physical or is it spiritual? To me, it was all of these things, and that's why I wrote it, to sort of figure that out for myself and to sort of explore those ideas. So it has to have a sort of personal element driving me to write the story.
Mm-hmm. Let's have a look at the questions. It's on Twitter from Julia703. Macht Schreiben auch so süchtig wie Lesen? Are you addicted to writing? Is it more or less the same as reading?
It is sort of an addiction. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's something that I do every day, all day long. I feel a little weird when I'm not writing. If I take days off, I feel a little, jittery. You get really sort of addicted, I guess, to the moment when you're really in deep to the world and everything around you just sort of fades and the hours just fly by, and then the next thing you know, it's 7 o'clock and it's time to have dinner, and you don't know where that day went because you were just so immersed in your story. That is like such a great moment. I think athletes call that being in the zone. So it's like that's being in the zone for a writer, and it's those moments that are just magic. They don't happen every day. Not every day is like that, but you're hoping that they'll happen every day. So you sit down every day looking for that moment.
We had talked about the candle. You're lighting the candle.
Yes.
And just a second ago, somebody asked, it's Büchernische. What's your favorite candle flavor while writing?
Oh, you know what? I really like the vanilla ones that smell like Christmas cookies. I sort of, can satiate my sweet tooth through smelling a candle. I think right now the latest one I have in there is patchouli. It's a little hippie, but I like it. But the next one, I'm going back to vanilla.
This is quite nice. Talking about your smiling. Heaven, the smiling.
I'm always
Das
smiling.
Himmel, dieses Lächeln.
Half my photos
You like
have my
it?
mouth wide open.
So we could come back to your writing career, because somebody, I guess, is perhaps a kind of newcomer author. Wann kam für dich der Moment zu sagen, ich möchte Autorin werden? Was hat dich bewegt? Von Nicole Klar. Was there a certain moment when you said, well, I want to be an author?
Yeah, I said it at 12, but I didn't make it happen until decades later. I got the bug at 12. I was a really big reader. My mom was a big reader, so she had us, reading early, and I read tons of books. But it wasn't until I was 12 I read my first Judy Blume book, and I didn't even know you could write books like that, because everything I'd been reading up until that point was like animals that talk or stories about princesses or mermaids or, horses. And they're great books, but she was writing about like real things that were really happening to people like me. And I could see myself in her characters, and I was like just so excited by that. And I thought, I didn't even know you could do this. I want to do this too. But it's something that I basically just talked about for decades. I would take writing classes here and there. I started a short story. I always wanted to turn it into a novel. But it wasn't until 9/11 happened and I was a flight attendant working in New York City, and I knew my job would never be the same. We had tremendous pay cuts, and we had to search for bombs on the airplane. And it just felt like it was just sort of a moment of re-examining my life, realizing that I'd been talking about a dream for decades, but I hadn't done really anything to work for it. And so that was when I made the decision, I'm going to at least finish a story and see if I can do something with it. And it was a 2.5-year process of learning, because I didn't know any other writers. The internet wasn't really as helpful as it is now. There wasn't like this big community back in 2001, 2, and 3 when I was really struggling with this book. And if there was, I was oblivious to it. I wasn't a member of any writing groups. I was just sort of in this bubble by myself trying to find my way. So I made every single newbie mistake you could possibly make. I got rejected by everybody. But I'm grateful for that. Now I'm grateful for that. Back then I was not grateful for that. I was crying. I was very upset. But now I'm grateful for that because it taught me a lot, and it toughened my skin, and it prepared me for what comes later. And, it made me work harder, and it made me really work to figure out how to do this. And so it was a long journey, but I'm glad I took it.
It was a long journey, and we could add this question. Are you still nervous before a book is published concerning the reactions of the readers?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, it's so funny. It's such a roller coaster of emotions. You're so excited about it. And then, then it starts to go through the phases of production, and then you start kind of slowly freaking out inside and thinking of all these things that you should have done differently. But you really have to shut that down, because I look at each book as the best effort that I could do at that particular time. And that's the way the book needed to look. And, you can tweak a book so much that you just take all the personality out of it too. So there's really a fine line between knowing when to stop and let go and just let the process happen. Not everyone's going to love your book. So you can't, you really just have to stay focused on your vision. You have to accept that some people are going to get you, some people won't, some people will love you, some people won't. That's just the way it is. So there's definitely a little freak out, but it's much tamer these days than it used to be, because I just say, hopefully my core readers will enjoy this, and it's the book that I needed to write at that particular time.
In general, by Papermind, what does a book need to be outstanding, in your opinion?
Oh, in my opinion, and this is only in my opinion, I like characters that I can really root for and relate to. I like them to be flawed, because I can't relate to them if they're not flawed. I think that, what makes characters interesting, what makes our friends interesting, is the flaws and the quirks and things like that. So I like deeply flawed, quirky characters. I like them to have sort of a worthy goal that I can work towards. I like it when they make mistakes and pick themselves up and learn from it, because I think that's inspiring. I like a storyline that moves fast and that takes me by surprise. I love when I think I know what's coming, but they do something else. That's always like a really great moment. And of course, I love a good romance and a cute boy. That never hurts. When in doubt, throw in a really cute boy.
Two guys on Twitter ask, will your books Evermore or the Riley series or even Soul-Seeker, will they be filmed?
Well, I hope so. To this day, I've had 15 books optioned, no movies quite yet, because Hollywood can move very slowly. My one adult book, Fly Me to the Moon, was optioned by Ridley Scott's Scott Free Productions. And Sharon McGuire, who directed Bridget Jones' Diary, which I loved, she's writing the screenplay, and she signed on to direct. And I've talked to her a few times, and she's just so brilliant and so funny. So I have really high hopes for that one. And all 4 books in the Soul-Seeker series was recently optioned to Cheyenne Enterprises. And we're really excited about that, because we met with the producer in LA shortly before we came out here. And he's has like a personal connection to the story. It's not something you see often in Hollywood. So he's so excited by the book. He has this personal connection to it. He actually did a vision quest because he was so intrigued by this world. And so I'm just like, gosh, with that kind of enthusiasm and excitement, behind it, it's a really good beginning. So hopefully we can get something going with that, because I would love to see, the lower world and the upper world brought to life. I would love to see the rabbit hole, and I would love to be there when they cast Dace and Cade.
That's quite rare in Hollywood, is it? That there's a personal connection for the producer?
It's a really rare thing, yeah. I mean, it's a business, so they're buying books because they're hot or because they think they can make it hot or whatever. And, it's always exciting to have a book optioned, but to have it optioned by someone who, you should see the questions he was asking. Like, he really got the world, and he really wanted, to have this dialogue about it, and, he did a vision quest. I haven't even done a vision quest. I thought it was just amazing.
Are there any actors, real actors, who you could think of to fit for your characters?
I am so bad at that, because to me, they're like real people. I can see them so clearly in my head that when I'm writing, I feel like I'm just taking notes on this movie that I'm watching in my head. And I can see them really clearly. So it's hard for me to say, oh, yes, this would be a good Dace Whitefeather, because I know what I can see him in here. So no one really comes to mind. But I do think that the trailer that the publisher made is just so well cast. So if you haven't seen the trailer, please go see it. It's on the German site and on my Alyson Noël site. And it's just amazing because usually a trailer, it's like, okay, it's close enough. But this trailer, I was blown away. I had nothing to do with it. And so it was just a complete surprise to me. But that is how I imagined Daire. She even dresses like Daire. That's how I imagined Dace and Cade. Paloma, that's what Enchantment looks like. It's just really amazing. And it's just really movie quality. So I'm kind of sold on those two, but I don't know if they act. I know they're models. We'll see.
We'll see. Also, ihr könnt es euch anschauen. Where can we find that? Where's the book trailer?
AlysonNoël.com. If you click on the faded cover, it'll take you into the trailer. It's also on the German Random House Page and Turner website.
Wir schauen jetzt einfach mal hier in den Raum, weil hier sind natürlich auch strenge Augen, die uns vom Verlag aus beobachten. Ja, also es ist so. Auf der Random House Seite kann man sich das Ganze also auch anschauen. Und wir schauen nochmal auf unsere Fragen. Aha, bitte meine Frage. Welche wäre denn das? Mrs. Jenny? Ist es gleich wieder drunter? Nee, die haben wir jetzt ja beantwortet, glaube ich. Ne? Das war ja die Frage nach den Filmen bzw. Filmrechten. Die fand ich auch schon sehr schön. Ist auch eine Frage von dir, liebe Jenny. Hat Alyson alle ihre Bücher in den Sprachen, in denen diese übersetzt wurden, zu Hause? Also je ein Exemplar, nehme ich mal an, pro Sprache. Well, Alyson, have you got all those volumes of books in all foreign languages of your original one at home, in your bookshelf? Yes. Or do you even need a garage for that? Or?
Yeah, it is so out of control too. I actually had about a year ago, I have someone who helps me out, my assistant, and she came over and we went through all of them. I mean, my shelves were triple stacked, and then there were stacks on the floor. It was just like devouring. It's in my office at home. It's devouring my office. So we went through and I kept 2 volumes of everything, and then we donated the rest to libraries, and mostly school libraries.
That's nice.
Because they're always in need of books. Their budgets are being cut tremendously, and they like the foreign language books because kids have to read. They're studying French, need to read a book in French or Spanish or German. So we did this huge donation, and now I think it's time to do another one because they are triple stacked again. And up to here, so another donation's coming up.
Yeah, that'll be the next question, actually. Where was it? Oh, I can't find it anymore, but the question was, are there already next writing projects?
Always. Always. Oh, yeah. But I don't know what it's going to be yet. I have 2 ideas for adult books. One is a contemporary realistic standalone idea. One is a paranormal series idea. And the same with teen books. I have this contemporary realistic standalone idea and another paranormal series idea. And I don't know what it's going to be. I mean, usually at this point, at the end of, almost at the end of a series, I start really jotting out what the next series is going to be before I start the final book. But this time, I'm just really going to enjoy this journey with the soul seekers and just stay in that world. And when I'm done with Horizon, then I'm just going to, see which idea screams the loudest. Because you spend so much time writing the book, you have to be really driven to write it. You have to be really into it at that moment. So I'm just going to kind of see which one pulls at me the most.
Yeah, and is there anything you really want to write about someday and haven't yet? In your shelf or where?
There's so many things I want to write about someday and haven't yet. And there's, some themes that I'd kind of like to explore again, but in a different way. So we'll see where it takes me. I'm not really sure what's next. Something will be next.
This is also quite an interesting question, because you mentioned that you had lived for a couple of years on Mykonos in Greece. Are you watching the whole situation in Greece right now? What's happening there?
Yeah, I'm aware of it. It's really sad. I'm actually going to Greece tomorrow, so I would get to watch it firsthand. I'll be in Mykonos for a few days, and I haven't been back. I left 19 years ago, so it'll be really interesting to see how it's changed and see my old friends. And then I'll be doing signings in Athens next week. So I have a huge fondness for Greece, the Greek people, Greek food, Greek culture, and so I'm very excited to return.
Well, at this point of time, I would also like to invite the audience here, the real audience, the physical
lovely
audience,
people here,
to ask questions if there's any question. Is that okay for you?
Of course.
Ja. Also nun sind tatsächlich auch diejenigen hier im Raum eingeladen, eine Frage aus dem Off zu stellen. Ja?
If you could change one thing in your life, what would it be?
Nothing. I wouldn't change a single thing because even the memories that make me cringe, like when I think about them today, they taught me something. I had a childhood that I would never really actually want to repeat, but it made me who I am now. I don't know if I'd be sitting here right now if I didn't have that past experience. So I'm a firm believer that every step leads you to the next. And that, the harder the journey, the sweeter the fruit. So I wouldn't change a single thing.
Yeah, another technical question. Do you also like books, reading books as e-books, or do you prefer the p-book, the paper book?
The p-book. It's the first time I've heard that. I'm sort of old school, so I do prefer the p-book. I like to flip around a lot. I like to go, I look at the author photo. I look at the acknowledgements. Who did they dedicate this to? I'll go back and reskim passages that I liked. I'll write little notes in the margin. I'll study the cover very intensely. And you can't really have that sort of, experience with an ebook. That said, I have an iPad. It's full of books, and I use that for traveling just because it's easier than carrying my stack around. But if I really love the book that I read in ebook form, I go to the bookstore and buy it so I can have the actual book on my shelf. Books are like friends to me, and they always have been. And I like to revisit them, and I like to reread them. And so I'm old school. I like p-books.
How about the books you have written? The readers, do they use the p-book, or do they also
they use both. I mean, they use both, but the bulk of my sales are still in real p-books. But there is a growing percentage that's gone to ebooks. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, but I guess it was a German publisher, Störiko Blume, who invented the p-book. I read an article from him, and there I catched it for the first time. Maybe
start using it.
It was his invention here in Germany.
I'm going to start using that.
So I had another nice question. I mean, gibt es hier sowas wie eine Art Frist, ihr lieben User, auch hier da draußen? Gibt es so eine Art Timeslot? Is there a timeslot we have to finish, or?
We have to ask the boss.
Schon langsam, sagt mir die Technik, und wenn die Technik das sagt, dann ist das sehr ernst. Denn
Mr.
ohne
Lovely
Technik
Books.
geht hier gar nichts, ihr Lieben. Das kriegt ihr ja auch hier mit, dass ihr hier immer wunderbare Unterstützung bekommt. Two final questions. Okay,
right.
well, Das ist natürlich jetzt wieder gemein. Bitte hinter keinen Shitstorm mir gegenüber, dass ich jetzt hier einfach mal wild reinfrage. So, welche Fragen können wir denn noch nehmen? Wir hatten doch gerade noch eine. Du hattest ja auch noch mal eine, glaube ich, gerade rausgesucht. where was it? I can't find it anymore, but I can remember. The question was, being a bestseller author, is it difficult for you when you write a new volume to fit to your own standards, your own set standards? Is there a kind of expectation you've got yourself, or is there also a kind of pressure?
Yeah, there was. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I wrote Evermore, that was my 8th book, by the way, and the first 7 sold well and went to multiple printings and did well enough to keep me, you know, employed as a writer. But Evermore was a book that like hit #1 on NYT and stayed there for over a year, and you know, all of these things. And it was unexpected and sort of surreal. And I had already written Blue Moon by the time that happened, so I'm sure I was probably at work on Shadowland or Dark Flame. And yeah, I mean, suddenly it was like this realization that, oh my God, millions of people are reading these books now, you know, and that there would be a sort of expectation. And I was a little frozen for a little while. And then I thought, you know what, I just have to write the story that I wanted to write in the way that I wanted to write it, and trust my own inner voice and my instincts of where I want this to go and what it is that I want to say. And, you know, once I sort of got over that, you know, minor freak out, I just ignore it, and I just write the book that I want to write, and I try not to think about that stuff. That stuff is principle. It's completely out of your control anyways. I mean, you cannot make yourself a bestseller. You cannot make people want to read your book. It's completely out of your control. So there's really no use obsessing over it.
That was, by the way, a question by Books Meet Beauty.
Good one. Good question.
Oh, dear.
No.
What happened?
We shrank. Now we're back in business.
Yeah. Dear Alyson, do you like your live stream reading and this way to be in contact with your readers? By Buchkolumne.
By who?
Buchkolumne. You could literally translate it as book column. Yeah.
Oh, hi, book column.
He or she calls. She calls herself Buchkolumne. Yes. Right.
Actually, I love it. I think I didn't know what to expect because I'd never done something like this.
Me too.
Right? And we're like, what is it we're doing tonight? You
know?
What's it now? What do we do? What's it going to be like? And I think it's amazing. I know you can't see it, but it's like Christmas in here. There's Christmas lights, candles, there are cookies on the table. There's like live audience, people, and it's just extraordinary. And I can't believe it's the first time I've ever seen something like this.
So this is the future of reading sessions?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it is. I think it's really cool. And I mean, I don't know if this is happening in the States and I'm just completely unaware of it, which is totally possible because when I'm in heavy writing, I mean, I have no idea what's going on around me. But it's the first time I've personally done it, and I think it's just brilliant. I do. I think it's genius.
Ja.
I'm all for it.
Wunderbares Schlusswort, dem ist nichts mehr hinzuzufügen. Wir bedanken uns recht herzlich bei euch. Und natürlich könnte ich alle Fragen an dieser Stelle beantworten, aber ihr habt ja mitbekommen, Alyson Noël ist auch fleißig im Netz unterwegs. Es gibt also Möglichkeiten, auf ihrem Twitter-Account, Facebook-Account oder auf ihrer Website auch noch die ein oder andere Frage zu stellen. An dieser Stelle bedanken wir uns recht herzlich. Thank you to have you here. It was very, very fine and nice. And here's your big applause from the physical audience.
And for my presenter, Marc Langebeck.
Yeah, just Marc.
Good enough. Marc. How about Marc? Who's done a great job tonight and on all my other readings. It's been really good. And thank you to Lovely Books and lovely audience and lovely readers and lovely publishers for allowing this to happen. It's been just great. And what a great way to end the German tour.
Absolutely.
So excited. Thank you.
So, thank you. And
lovely Twitter people and Facebook people. Sorry.
All right. Good night.
Okay, we're off.